right, from an introduction standpoint, introduce yourself and tell us about your practice.
I'm Guru. That's my real name. People ask to see my driver's license.
I wish my mom had named me Guru. That would be awesome. That's a lot of pressure. You have to grow up being a guru in something. Like,
it is what it is, man. When you had the name for your life, you accept there are some failures.
and talk to me about your practice.
So I currently own 16 practices. Of the 16, about 12 are primary care and 4 are specialty practices. There's a reason why I focused on primary care practices. It acts as a gateway for patients to come in and talk to their primary care physician and figure out, what's going on with their health, what's the best possible route. There are many different paths you could take for a good health, right? And a responsible primary care physician will not really look at what is monetarily beneficial for him or his practice, but what is the best outcome for the patient.
So that's uncommon to, I think, what most people probably experience. I can only speak for myself, right? I get there, I wait in the waiting room 30, 40, 50 minutes. I finally get back, they do my height, weight, and blood pressure, and then they stick me into the second waiting room, right? I wait there for 20, 30 minutes, and then the doc comes in, 6 minutes, they're out. In this conversation, you're spending more time with a patient.
So the way we are looking at it is, if the patients are healthy, right, then they don't have to keep coming back to the physician, right? So the incentive used to be, the insurance people, the payers, pay per episode, which means, you come in for a cough and cold, you treat the cough and cold and for the patient, and then get paid for treating the cough and cold. Nowadays, there is a deeper look at the care component, right? What the payers are saying is, look, I don't want the patient coming back 4 times for 4 things that are wrong with the patient, right? Let's take a holistic view on the patient. And whether the patient comes in or not, we will pay you, for example, $100, $200, $300 a month, right? And, if the patient comes in once a month, that's great, keep the money. If the patient comes in 8, 10 times a month, you manage the costs, right? There needs to be a reason why somebody is coming in so many times. That means you need to look into the root cause of what is causing the patient to be unhealthy and figure out how to treat that root cause versus an episode-based snapshot of the patient's health.
Well, we call it healthcare, but in that scenario, that's sick care, right? Yeah. They're coming in when they're sick. So in that, treating the patient, you're looking at not only, what's the right thing to do, but what's the most efficient way of doing it. So back to your point, they don't need to come in and see you. If there's other ways, we were talking about that earlier, about telehealth, video health, all of these different ways of accessing care. Talk to us about that.
So, traditional healthcare has encouraged in-person, face-to-face encounters, right? Things are evolving. At the end of the day, diagnosis is more important than face-to-face, encounters, right? So whether the doctor is here in Las Vegas or in Idaho or I don't care where, right? As long as there's an interaction with the patient, it could be online, it could be telehealth, it could be whatever. But the diagnosis, if it is precise and you address the root cause of what is causing you that particular treatment or episode,
pain or whatever
it is, right? Patients are at this point accepting that what is important is not seeing the doctor face to face, right, but getting the diagnosis right, and that actually accelerated during COVID time.
Sure.
Right. Patients did not want to come into a clinic because clinics are the places where there are most germs. So, they actively started asking, can I just do a telehealth for something that I just want an advice for, right? It started with mental health. So mental health was one of the first few parts of healthcare that actually pushed telehealth that pushed remote kind of health monitoring, right? Because telehealth is more about seeing the doctor remotely, and mental health is more about talking about your
Sure. So I don't need to be in front of you to talk to you.
Exactly. Right. So, and then any situations that did not require a shot or an infusion or anything like that could actually be treated, telehealth, channel, right? So, follow-up visits, right, are great, right? You don't have to show up at the physician's office for a follow-up on how you're doing after a procedure was performed.
Right.
Right. The other big one is, renewing prescriptions. Right. You are put on a prescription, it's been 30 days, you need to renew a prescriptions. Right. You don't have to go physically to a physician to tell him, look, I felt great on this, I did not feel great on this. Right. And so can you reduce the dosage on this or increase the dosage on that? Right. So there are specific, conditions that are more conducive for telehealth kind of situations.
Well, and you sparked something in my head. I mean, if I am somebody that is truly sick and I need to see you more often, the check-in points of, am I being compliant? Am I adhering to my medications? Is it working? Is it not? That's not something I need to come in and see you. Like, we can have those conversations. You can have that conversation, that coaching, that, hey, why aren't we doing what's going on in a much more efficient setting?
Exactly, right? And you don't have to, like you said, wait for 20, 30, 40 minutes in the reception area and another 20, 30, 40 minutes in the
second
operation room, right? You can actually log in when the physician is ready and have the conversation and log off. It's 10 minutes, right? So, that part is taking off. And, it's more efficient in terms of software, in terms of platforms to route, if you're starting at the primary care clinic, to route your patients to specialties, right? Do you need, for example, neurology help? Sure, we can find somebody who is the most cost efficient, who is the most available, and who has very good outcomes. They may not physically be here that you can go and see them, but this guy is living in wherever and has the best outcomes for you.
This subject is fascinating because we're talking about a small segment of your patients, but they're going to be the sickest or the highest cost because they need some specialty. You now in this telehealth, this virtual world, the specialist that you refer to doesn't have to be down the street.
No.
You could literally engage in what we used to call back in the day, a three-way call, right? And set up that conversation between the very best, you know the patient the best, and now the patient. And they never had to leave their house, and the person doesn't have to be here in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, there are so many advantages to that, right? Huge. One is, your cost comes down from the business point of view, but more importantly, you're getting the best treatment. You're getting the best consultation you can, right, while not even leaving your home. Right. So, there may be procedures as a follow-up, but that does not need a specialist opinion. You get the specialist opinion on telehealth, and then the procedure itself, as long as the prescription's there, can be delivered right, in a primary care setting. Right. So that's the reason why I thought primary care should be the gateway to what I'm going to look at. Right. And I doubled down. I only had 3 or 4 primary care clinics and about 5 or 6 specialty clinics. But after I saw what was happening in the industry, I doubled down. COVID helped. A lot of primary care physicians are not business savvy. They wanted out. Especially people who are in their 60s, physicians, they want to retire, they are not tech savvy, they don't believe in alternate or, more modern ways of delivery of medicine. Right. So, I bought them out. I put in a little bit of technology, a little bit of, specialty clinics around it. And so what I'm going after is the hub and spoke model. The hub is going to be primary care. And the spokes are going to be all the specialties, pharmacy, imaging, urgent care, to whatever else you can think, long-term, acute care, right? So, but the hub is always going to be primary care. That drives all these channels.
So I want to talk the last part of the conversation. We've got some surgeons over there, and
Yep.
and you interact with them, so you see their practices. As somebody who is, again, the hub,
Right.
talk about this ability to, I'm going to call shepherd the patient to the right spot. So you're not encumbered with working for the hospital and having to send everything there. You can take your own opinion based on outcomes, based on facts, based on cost and all those things, and help your patients. Talk about that relationship that you have with the other, spokes, if you will, in that hub and spoke model.
It's extremely important, right? To me, I look at it as a matchmaking algorithm, right? So, there are different factors with each patient. Each patient's needs are unique. Each patient's, availability and way they can go about the treatment is unique, right? And so when you're the hub and you're looking at which part of the spoke you need to, tap into and why, right? So to me, the technology has advanced enough. It's not a huge algorithm, but eventually there's going to be machine learning. Eventually there's going to be artificial intelligence. Eventually there's going to be a way where you input your needs and it will give you the precise match for this is your best care you can get, right? We're not there yet. But today there's some manual matchmaking and there's some
Art and science.
Yeah, art and science. There's some balance, but we try and find, the best solution to what the patient's needs are. Not just because the surgeon is down the street, but because this is the need, and the best possible solution could be wherever, right? You do a quick calculation of the give and take, right? And then figure out what the best possible solution is for the patient.
And always being patient-centered.
Always being patient-centered. You do the right thing, I feel you'll get rewarded, right? And that's the way the industry is moving today as well.
So last topic here, we've said the word payer.
Right.
And I hate that word when we talk about the insurance company, because at the end of the day, the employer is funding most of the bill and the employee is funding most of the bill. But if you're sitting in front of a room full of employers who I think are the real payer, what do you tell them in this whole conversation?
Downtime is expensive, right? Figure out the best possible solution for your employees. It may not be local. That doesn't matter today, right? The delivery you can always figure out. The diagnosis is more important, right? As long as you have the right diagnosis, the care component can be local, and that's fine, right? But this balances out, your patient going through their cycles of trying 3 different things before the 4th one is a hit.
Right.
Right, and that can get expensive.
Yeah.
That can get time-consuming. That can result in downtime for your for your employees, and can get expensive for you.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much. This has been great. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Take care.